Okay, so we've just hit record. Thank you everyone who's joined so far. Hopefully we'll get a few more people joining just as we go. Just to introduce myself, my name's Meg. I lead up customer success here at Progression. And I'm going to be hosting Build Your Framework with Us session 2 today, which is focusing entirely on build. Some of you may have joined us last week for the session that we focused in on planning. If you did miss that session, don't worry, we've got the recording. Just pop a message in the chat, we'll make sure we get that to you. But thank you so much for joining this session today. As I mentioned, we're going to be focusing on all things build. So we did plan last week. Today we're building. We also have an office hours session coming up the week after next on the 17th, where we're going to be answering all of your questions about build. So any questions that you come up with today, just as we go through, please feel free to raise a hand, pop them in the chat, or save them for the very end. I'm going to leave as much time as I can at the end of the session today to answer all of your questions here. But as you go away, take everything that you learned today and discuss it with your teams, with your colleagues. You're sure to raise a few more questions as you go. So we're dedicating a full hour to that on the 17th of May. So make sure you come along if you do want to share your work in progress or ask any questions as well. And then finally, on the 24th of May, we're going to conclude the series with a session focused entirely on launching your framework within your team. So we'll answer any last minute questions you have before you start sharing that more widely and starting to interact with your framework, hopefully using some of our great growth features on Progression as well. So agenda for today, we're going to focus in on building. So we're going to start with building your first team from scratch or using one of our templates from the Progression library. We'll show you how to edit those templates, how to delete teams, move tracks, add tracks, edit tracks, make sure you're getting your templates, and if you're building from scratch, your V1 ready to go and getting all of the details that you want to include in there sorted. We'll also show you how to use our AI skills generator, which will really help you reduce the time it takes to create your skills. We've actually just launched a case study very recently with one of our customers talking about how great the AI generator has been and how it's sped up their process no end. So definitely keep an eye out for that as well. And we'll also show you how to copy and delete some of those skills, talk a little bit about skill hygiene, just to make sure that you're getting everything that you can from your framework and it's not too overwhelming for people looking at that for the first time. And we'll also hone in on building collaboratively, making sure that you're getting feedback from people in your organization as you go through and build. It's so important not to take this project on alone. So we spoke a little bit more about that in the plan session last week. If you missed that again, don't worry, we can get the link to you. But we're big fans of building collaboratively here at Progression. So we'll spend a bit of time covering that as well. As I said, any questions as we go, let me know. If you're new to Progression, I just want to take some time to introduce us. We're a career development platform. We're here to basically help you host, interact with, and use your frameworks that you build for your teams and make sure that everyone's tracking their career development and engaging with those frameworks so that they've got real visibility of where they can go with their careers, what they can do to develop their skills, and what progression looks like at your organizations. We're going to live in the tool for the rest of this demonstration today. So we'll definitely get familiar with all of the different stuff that we have to offer when it comes to building your framework. And as we move into that launch session, we'll start to look at some of those growth features where you can start to engage with that framework as well. So stick with us until the end of May and you'll be in a position to confidently launch and use your framework in your organization. Without further ado, let's dive into the product. So I'm just going to switch over some tabs here and we'll go straight into Progression. So what you should be seeing now is my build demo office that I've created on Progression for the purposes of today. You should see our product team here on the side, a little create team box here. Everyone can see that okay? Give me a thumbs up, Alex. Great, cool, perfect. Let's get started. So when you come into Progression, you're going to be taken by default to our homepage here, which is all about the feed. And we're not going to talk too much about this today. This really comes after you've built your framework and you want to start engaging with that content that you've created. As I mentioned, we've got a launch session on the 24th. Definitely join us there. We'll talk a little bit more about these things. But for now, I'm going to take you to the left side navigation menu where you can start to go to your org homepage. So down at the bottom here, you'll see your organization's name if you're in Progression at the moment and trying to follow follow along. I'm going to do my best to kind of talk you through it as we go. But as I said, we're recording the session today, so you can follow along later as well. But I'm going to click here. This is to my organization homepage, and this is where it's going to host all of the different teams that I create on Progression. Now, teams relate to frameworks. So what you'll generally have is a framework per team. So for example, product here. And for the purposes of the demo today, I'm going to create an engineering team that we can follow along with. I can do engineering. We've got a couple of quick links here for some popular teams as well to help you get started even faster. When I create that team, I'm going to be taken to our library of templates. And we specify that by team as well, if it's a team that we recognize. And you can start to kind of shuffle through all of the different templates that we've made available for your organizations to start using. We've got blank teams that just sort of give you the general positions. We've got teams that are already populated with positions and skills as well. If you just want to look through the templates without building anything straight away, I'll just direct you to this library icon just in the bottom left here. If you click in there, you'll have 3 different options of different places you can go in the library. So you have frameworks, which are full frameworks, positions, skills, all of that bundled up nicely by different teams. So for example, we've got marketing teams, engineering teams, co-founding teams that Neil and Johnny, our Progression founders, have put together. So lots to look for there. And when you click into any of these, you'll see that we've basically done a lot of the hard work here for you by putting together those different positions and skills so that you never have to start from scratch if you don't want to. We've also got collections in the library. These are collections of skills, so bundled up skills that you can automatically add into your framework as well. So I mentioned we're going to be using an engineering team today. So if I came in here, I can search for those different team names. I've got one here that's back-end engineering, and you can just see loads of different skills already put together for me that I can start to add straight in as well. And finally, skills individually. If you want to just look at certain skills, if you're looking for communication, for example, you can search down and have a look at the different communication skills we've got from customers that have shared their frameworks publicly and their skills publicly, and Progression have created quite a few as well in there. So definitely have a little look around the library. As I mentioned, it's in the bottom left there, just in that menu, and you'll be able to link to that library from your framework too. So just heading back into my engineering team, you'll see I've got a few different positions added here that I can start to create what my tracks look like. Now, before I go any further with that, let's talk about what tracks are. So you'll see we've added one by default here called individual contributors. So these are the people that make up your team. So in the engineering example that we're working with now, you would expect to see sort of junior, mid, senior level engineers making up this track. What you'll also quite often find in a lot of frameworks that you see, whether that's in our public library or on progression.fyi that we pointed you to last week, is another track that's usually dedicated to management or leadership of that team. And the reason why we separate these 2 tracks out is that we want to leave room for individuals to grow in the different tracks that make the most sense for them. So for some people, they'll want to become experts and specialists in their specific field. So they might want to move up in seniority through sort of mid-level, senior level, staff level engineer, or they may want to move into more of the people management side of that team. They might want to become engineering leads, directors of engineering, etc. And we want to kind of illustrate that there are 2 different pathways, at least, that they could kind of navigate down and sort of move cross-function as well. So let's get started adding some positions in. So I started off just by talking about sort of junior and mid-level engineers. So I'm just going to add some in here. And what we'd want to do here is just make sure that we're adding in that they are in fact engineers. And you'll see that we're taken into this sort of position card here, where we can start to add some more detail around what this role includes. So you'll see we've got a few different areas here that I'll just walk you through one by one. You can start by describing the role. Quite often what you'll find in here is almost a mini job description or a summary of what this role entails. Don't get too bogged down on this in your V1. You want to add a description, definitely, but it doesn't need to be sort of 3 paragraphs or anything like that. It can be a short, snappy summary just to get you started, and you can always come back to this later. You'll also see some different options in terms of labeling, salary, different tracks that they're associated to. All of this information you can start to kind of customize down as you get started. We're going to come back to this later. So you'll start to see we're already starting to put some of our positions in and our framework is starting to take shape. We want to start looking at the management track now as well, just so that we can add in that different track and start to add some meat in there too. So let's start by adding in an engineering lead, for example. And you'll see each time I add a card, we populate another position afterwards as well, just to make that really easy to click into. If ever you need to change where a position sits on the framework, you can do that using the seniority level here. So you'll see that that follows along left to right, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I can start to sort of move that up or down as needed. So I've just moved that to level 5, and we can start moving those positions along as needed if we do want to. I'm going to add in one more here, Director of Engineering. And you'll see we've started to take that shape now into our framework. And this is all happening in the positions tab. It's quite good to start with positions because you'll probably already know the positions that make up your different teams that you're building for. So you can at the very least start to add in the positions that exist today. If your framework's going to include new positions, so maybe positions that you're starting to think about hiring for, you can also start to factor that in when you start adding those in. So start with what you know, and we'll go from there. What you'll see here is that we're kind of highlighting that there are no skills associated to these positions right now. What I like to do here is kind of move into the skills tab. So on the top sort of menu bar here, I can go into skills, and you'll see that we're being prompted to add a category in. And we want to categorize skills because there are different types of skills that are required for all of the different roles that we would be building for. You might remember that we spoke a little bit about this last week if you were able to attend. Some of the categories you want to kind of define by what they're used for. So most roles will have some specific craft skills that are associated with it. So for engineering, that would be things like writing code, testing. You'll also want different types of skills like human skills, which might be initiative, communication. And finally, if you're starting to build in those management tracks, you'll also probably want some leadership or management skills in there as well. Now, the categories can be called whatever you want them to be. You can have as many of those as you like. We generally see those sort of 3, but we've also seen things like hard skills, soft skills, human skills, people skills, whatever sort of language is going to feel most comfortable for you and your team. Just make sure that you're sort of adding in those categories. You don't really want uncategorized skills because they will always fall into one of those sort of buckets that we've just sort of talked about. So I'm going to add in some categories here now. Let's go for human. We can also add in leadership. And again, you'll see that I've also got the option to add a description in here. So what we can do is we can revisit this at a time. I don't want to spend the whole session sort of typing in front of you. I don't think that would be very much fun for anyone watching. But you are able to add in that context, which is going to really help you as you sort of share this with the team. For people coming in to view your framework when it's at V1 and they're trying to get to know it, all of those descriptions and the extra detail that you can add in there, it's really going to help that person kind of interpret what you're intending from the build that you've created. So make sure that you are revisiting those things later on. And that might be in V2, it might be in V1. And I'm going to finally add in my craft area as well. Great. So now we can see that I've got some categories there, and it's really nice and easy for me to just sort of go underneath there and start thinking about the different kind of skills that I'd want to add. Now, I've mentioned that we've got our great library. We're going to pull in lots of skills here from the menu, and you can start to search to find those different skills that you want to add. So if I'm adding in some human skills, we might go for initiative as an example, and I can have a little look at this skill. I can start to get a bit familiar with it. So I can see title here. I could customize that down if I want to call that something slightly different. We've got the description. You'll notice it's just point and click to be able to adjust and amend all of these things. That's a nice recent addition from our product team, some of whom are joining today. Thanks for that. And we've also got some different skill levels as well. So what's really great here is that each level you will see you've got a description for and some examples. And the examples are so important when you're writing your skills, because those are the things that people are going to refer to as they start to have career conversations. So if someone wants to focus on their initiative as something to develop and improve upon, they're going to want some examples of how to take it from level 1, for example, to level 2. So all of the detail in here is going to be really important as you sort of move forward. And you'll see, again, we've created templates so you don't have to start from scratch, and you can add to this or remove anything that doesn't feel right for you. So if, for example, for my organization, I'm not sure that I want to sort of include this follow through skill, I can just get rid of that. I can click here and it will remove that, and I can add in a new example as I need to. And again, you can have as many of those as you like. So we can start to add these in. I can choose to add that skill to my team now, and you'll see that that's going in. I can then drag and drop that to where it needs to go, and I can start to add as I need to. I'm going to add a couple more skills in here, but what I want to do as well is sort of show you around the AI skill generator that I mentioned. So we've got generate new skill here, AI assistant. If we click in here, you'll see that we're going to our beta for this. It is in beta, but it works very nicely for some of our customers as we've gone. So let's start with ownership as a leadership skill example. I can decide what kind of skill this is. All of the detail that I put in here is going to help with the prompt. So our AI generator is powered by GPT-3. So as much information as you can give is going to really help you to build on the quality of what the generator puts out for you at the end. So let's think of some example behaviors for ownership. That might be accountability, prioritization, delegation, and let's say initiative as well. And what I can do is I can create a skill. You'll see a little reminder there that it can take up to 30 seconds just to do this. As I mentioned, GPT-3 is working away in the background here now, taking all of that context that I've given and creating a skill. And what the output of that is going to be is the skill, as I've titled it there, which will be ownership. And it will take those example behaviors like initiative, delegation, and it will start to generate those levels that we saw before. Here we go. So you've got our title here. There's a description, ability to take responsibility for a task, project, or problem. And it's added in some levels for me based on those example behaviors that I've added in as well. So it's a really quick way to take some of the stuff that's probably living in your mind rent free right now when you're thinking about all of the different skills you want to write and things that you want to include. And it's just going to put them in a really nice format for me that I can then go in and I can amend as needed based on that prompt. This is AI generated. It is worth having a little look through and just making sure that you're happy with all of the things that that's kind of created for you. But again, it's a really nice head start, and you can just amend this down, remove anything that doesn't feel right for you, and add to it as well. So this is going to speed up your framework build no end. Okay. I'm going to go back to my team now, start adding some more bits and pieces in. Go back to my skills tab. Sorry, I clicked out of the wrong thing there. And I'm just going to keep adding some skills to this just so that we can get started. Other leadership skills, we might have team leadership. I'm just going to populate this really quickly just so that you can start to get a view of how that's going to feel once we're done. Let's have developing others as well. We can also start adding in some of those craft skills. So I mentioned some writing code and testing, for example. So all of these things, you can see how quick it is to add those in. As I mentioned, if you just want to expand some of these and have a look and make sure that they're right for you before you start adding them in, you can do that and just have a little look through. And it's just a click here to add skill to team in the top right-hand corner there. Okay, so I've added in some of my skills. If I want to add a skill from scratch, there is the option to do that. So create new skill is here, and you can just choose exactly what you want that to say. Again, you're just asked to add a title, and it will just give you a blank canvas here. So if you do want to do that, you are absolutely able to. If you just want to kind of take everything out, create that entirely from scratch, you're able to do that. If you are looking to kind of get a V1 out the door quickly, I can't stress enough, templates are there. Do definitely use them. The AI generator is fantastic. You may also be in a position where you already have some skills on hand. You can upload skills by CSV. So that is an option as well if you've got those living in a spreadsheet elsewhere. And we can give you a format in order to help you do that as well. So definitely use that as well if you've got some existing content that you want to add in. So we've been to positions, we've created the general sort of flow of our framework, our individual contributors and our management sort of strand there. We've also added in the skills into the categories that we think we want to work with too. Now is when we can start to translate that into a framework view. So I've just clicked on the framework tab in the center here, and what you'll see is those different skills that I've added on the left-hand side here, and all of my positions on the right-hand side. So it's now really easy for me to start thinking about the levels of those skills that I think apply at all of those different seniority roles. So for example, junior through to mid, through to senior, through to lead, I can assume that there's probably going to be quite a standard sort of progression in level of skill there. If I click level 1 on my junior engineer, what we will do is we will prompt you to say if you want to add those skill levels mapped to the seniority level of each position. So for example, my role engineering lead, which is at level 5, will automatically get leveled at level 5 for this skill. So if I just add that to all positions now, you'll see how that works. So what that's going to save you time doing is kind of going through and clicking each dot for each kind of level of skill that you want to add. So a really nice way of kind of speeding up that process. And you can see how we're going to get to a fully built framework really quickly that we can then tailor down to our specific needs. So if I go for communication, it may be that actually, oh, sorry, I've clicked on the wrong thing there. It may be that I want to, oh, we haven't added any skills for communication. That's why. Let's go to ownership. It may be that some of these do not apply for some of the roles. So for example, ownership, I may not actually expect that skill from a junior engineer. I might not expect team leadership from a junior engineer. So I can start to sort of navigate along and say, okay, at what point do we actually see team leadership as a requirement? That might be at that senior level that we've defined here. And again, I can start to add that seniority level and again, map that to all the positions. And I can remove that as well if I want to from any of the skills, from any of those roles. I can also change this just by sort of hovering over those different skills and sort of starting to map those levels as I need to. Are there any questions about sort of this process, adding skills to roles at the moment? I just want to pause there. I know that we've kind of covered a lot quite quickly. Feel free to pop those in the chat or raise a hand, whatever's going to work best for you. And if there's no questions, that's absolutely fine as well. Great. Okay, perfect. Let's get back to it. So developing others, we can start to have a little look and start to kind of decide what levels we want to add in. So we could say we want a level 3 here. We might want a level 4 in a mid. We might want a level 5. And again, we can start to kind of test the logic of the skills that we've used or built. So it may be that actually we start to realize that if I want a level 5 of developing others in a senior role, and this description sounds right to me, I might want to actually start adding in additional levels to this skill. So I can then go and start to edit that down. I can start to make changes as I need to, and I can add in levels as I go just by clicking into the skill here and adding those additional levels and taking that with me. One of the things that I mentioned at the start was sort of the need to build collaboratively and kind of take that on board. So we've actually surfaced comments in progression now so that you can do that as you go through and build. So if you are in a work in progress state, so at the moment, this is very much work in progress. We've got some skills without levels. We've got some skills that haven't been sort of applied to those different positions that we've created yet. What I can do is I can start to add comments. So if I want to go into this specific skill, for example, ownership, and I might want to, let me just go in here. I might want to say, okay, I'm not sure about this description and I'm not sure about the example of prioritization and I want someone else's perspective. I can start to add that as a comment. And I can also invite team members to kind of comment on this as well. So let's say I'm not sure about the description. We're adding in tagging very shortly, so you can start to at other team members on progression. That's going to be coming very soon. At the moment, we can just add those comments in, and you'll see we've got the options to reply. We can also delete those comments if they're no longer valid, and we can start to sort of go from there and add in people. You can also, if you've created anything with our skill generator, you'll see this little prompt here. Make sure you leave us some feedback about how you found that. We are, as I said, it is beta. We are working to improve that. So just let us know as we go too. So you can comment on not only skills, but you can also comment on positions. So for example, if you're building out your engineering lead, adding in your description, maybe you're starting to think about adding in hiring links so that you can start to use your framework to help you with hiring, which was one of the things that we spoke about last week as well. You might want to start adding comments in and saying, you know, is this ready to go? Is there anything you want to add? And we can start to add comments too. You can invite people directly to progression as well, just with invite teammates, and you'll see you're prompted just to add in their details. You can add people in progression various ways. We do offer SSO directory sync. You can upload users by CSV, and you can add people as you go in progression as well, one by one, as we've just shown you here, just to get that feedback too. When you're feeling happy with your framework, so let's say here's one I made earlier, which is product. Let's say we're happy to sort of publish this, we're ready to go. We do have some different visibility settings in the top left here. So if I click on draft, draft is the default state that all of your frameworks will go to. And what that means is that they're visible to anyone who is an admin on your progression account and anyone who's been set up as an editor of the team. And I'll show you where you can sort of customize who editors are in a moment as well. But we also have statuses of live and public. And I'll just talk you through the sort of differences between those two things. If you set a framework live, it means it's going to be visible to everyone in your organization. So it won't be visible, it won't be shared to the internet or anything like that. It will just be visible to everyone who's invited to your organization. So they will see those when they go to your organization homepage, they will see your team within that if it's set to live. If you set to public, we're going to publish your framework. It will have its own URL, its own progression URL, where you'll be able to share that more widely than just inside progression. And that's usually used by people who are wanting to link to hiring, who are wanting to just kind of increase their reach and show that they're kind of a leader in their kind of visibility of progression at their organization. So a really powerful thing. We've got a number of different public frameworks. Again, I think we pointed you to those last week on our plan session. A really great thing to sort of look at, see what other people are doing, get inspired. And once you're at a point where you're sharing your framework as well, we would love for you to become one of those people that others are looking to and sort of going, I really like what they've done there. I want to kind of create that for myself as well. So bear in mind those different sort of visibility settings. And Alex has just shared, thanks Alex, a link to all of our public teams too, if you are looking just to get a bit of inspiration about what others have done with their frameworks. Okay. And that's publishing your framework. So I just mentioned some of the different sort of team settings, which I'll just kind of walk you through now if you want to kind of add in additional editors or additional admins to your organization. So when we go to our org homepage, so let's click on build demo, which is the name of my org. I can go into my team, my engineering team, and I can go into settings. So it's just the little ellipses menu here, go to settings, and this will take you to all of your engineering team settings where you can change the name of your engineering team. You can change your slug, we'll generate one for you, but if you want to make that something a little bit prettier, especially when you go public, you are able to do that here. You can also add in cover images. So if you've got a lovely team photo that you want to be the sort of org homepage view that other people get, you can upload that here. And you can also make some adjustments to the different things that you will see. So for example, we automatically will show a README about your team where you can add in a description of your team's framework and what that's used for. If you want to call that something different, you're absolutely able to do that. And if you don't want to use that at all, you're able to toggle that on and off. The same goes for the people that are associated with the different roles and also your open roles in your framework as well. Here we are at the editors. So this is where you can add in additional people to help contribute to building your framework. So definitely don't do that alone. At the moment, it's just me in my organization. But once you've added some people, invited some people in, you'll be able to add them as editors here, just in your team settings. And again, you'll be able to have a little look through those different teams. I'm an organization admin, which means that I see loads of other fun stuff like all of the other teams and integrations and things like that. But definitely have a little look around, make sure that you're not building alone as you go. Okay, I think we're going to wrap there just for now. I want to leave loads of time for questions. I'm going to just flip back to the slides quickly. Okay, can everyone see that? Perfect. And any questions at all, again, feel free to pop those in the chat, stick a hand up, just shout out now. If you think of any questions after the session today, definitely join the conversation in our progression community on progression.fyi. Alex has again shared a link in the chat there as well, just to make that really easy. And we've also got support@progression.co. Great. I'm just going to go to the chat now. I think we've got a couple of questions coming in. Thank you for that. Thanks, Susie. Is there any limit to the number of team members you can add in for the help with the drafting? Yes. So at the moment, if you're on a free plan with Progression, you are limited to 10 users before you would switch to a sort of a paid plan. We do, when you sign up to Progression, give you a 2-week free trial of all of those paid features as well. So you can add in a few extra people during that time too. But definitely feel free to reach out to us if you're having any issues with sort of wanting to add in a few more people, get used to sort of how that building process is working and get more feedback, Susie. We don't want that to be prohibitive in any way. We'd love to help you. So just let us know. Great. One of the other questions we get quite a lot that I'll just sort of preempt now is sort of about number of skills associated with different positions in the framework. There is no sort of definitive, you must only have XYZ number of skills, but as a general rule at Progression, we think that the sweet spot is between 8 and 12 skills for a first draft, just so that you're being quite selective, that it's all sort of killer, no filler in terms of the skill content. So make sure that you're thinking about things like that when you're getting stuck into the library and the templates. It can be really tempting when you're sort of searching new skills to just keep adding because there's loads of stuff in there. But try and be a bit selective. Maybe start to set limits on the number of skills you want from each category. So you might decide that you only want up to 5 craft skills, up to 3 human skills, up to 2 leadership skills. You can just start to sort of define it through that. Definitely for a V1. As you sort of launch, you might find that there are things not included in the framework that you feel need to be there, or things that you've got in there that don't. And that's one of the beauties about getting sort of extra pairs of hands, extra eyes on things, just to help you kind of determine what's the most important for you in your team right now, so that you can narrow that down. Okay. Any other questions? If not, I am happy to give you back some time in your day. You can log straight into Progression, start building some things, start playing around with the AI skills generator. I'm going to be lingering around on the community for a little while after this session as well. So if you think about anything that you need as you go through sort of building, Annie, really glad that's been helpful. Great. Thank you for that. Just let me know, I'll be there and we can answer all of your questions. If you think about anything after that, you can always reach us at support@progression.co and in the community as well. But all that's left to say now is thank you so much for coming. Don't forget to refer back to your Notion checklist. You can now complete the sort of writing section. You can start to register for that office hours session. So if you want to go away, spend some time building, generate some more questions as you sort of play and learn, definitely sign up for that. That's on the 17th of May at 4 p.m. And also check out our build training module for admins. So everything that I've covered today, we've got a really helpful sort of step-by-step guide, which will walk you through how to do all of those different things on Progression. So definitely check that out as well. Again, that's all in the chat ready for you as you go. But all that's left to say is thank you so much for coming along today. It's really nice to see some familiar faces from last week and some new faces as well. And hopefully I will see you all at the office hours on the 17th. But if you need me before then, you know where I am. Thanks, everyone. Take care. Have a lovely afternoon.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks.